Welcome to I Love My Club By, with me, your host, Seamus Barry, the podcast that gives you the insight into our local games of hurling and camogie. Join us as we take a look at some of the characters around the county on I Love My Club By. That's right, folks, you're very welcome along to I Love My Club By, the podcast that brings you closer to our local games in hurling and camogie. And we're going to be taking a look at all the fixtures this weekend as we get to the business end of the year knockouts in both the junior, intermediate and senior championship. And of course, we have a special interview coming up later on in the show with the author of Game of My Life, a highly recommended book for any hurling fan, especially a Waterford fan. And that is, of course, written by Tomás McCarthy, also a broadcaster with WLR and a journalist with News and Star. Tomás, of course, has cemented himself as the number one pundit and broadcaster in Waterford for club hurling in the last couple of years. And it was a pleasure to chat to him, and we'll get to that interview later on. As I said, a lot of games on this weekend, and of course this podcast is brought to you in association with Clubber TV, the TV subscription that brings you closer to your local games of hurling, camogie and also of underage games as well. So just looking at some of the fixtures for this weekend, we're going to run through them. We have intermediate, senior and junior. We're going to start with the senior championship, and of course Passage take on 4 Mile Water from 5:30 throw-in in Fraher Field, and Clonea face Lismore and what I think will be the game of the weekend at 7:15. Myself and Tomás discussed these games, so I won't give any forecast opinion on those ones. And of course on Sunday then, the 21st of August, we have Abbeyside versus Dunhill in Fraher Field at 1:30, and De La Salle versus Tallow at 3:15. So 4 games in Fraher Field this weekend, all in the senior grade. And of course, looking to the intermediate championship then, we have Tramore face De La Salle, and that of course is on at 8:15, and that'll be Thursday night. Of course, when you listen to this on Friday, we'll already have the result of that game. Ballyduff face Butlerstown, so Ballyduff Lower from 8:15. That's in St. Saviour's, and that's Friday night on the 19th. Looking to the weekend in intermediate championship, we have Ballygunner versus Portlaw at 3 o'clock in Welsh Park, and we have Ferrybank versus Airn's Own at 6 o'clock in Welsh Park. So a double header in the intermediate coming to you live from 3 o'clock in Welsh Park. And of course all them games, like I said, will be brought to you by Clubber TV, both senior and the intermediate Eastern Championship. As we turn our attention to the West Championship, Ballynamena will play Cappoquin from 7:30, and that will be on Friday night in Fraher Field. And then on Saturday, we have the meeting of Ballysaggart versus Bricky Rangers, a highly anticipated clash, and it throws in at 1:30 in Fraher Field. And Onryan face Shamrocks in Cappoquin from 4 o'clock in the Intermediate West Championship. And of course then on Sunday we have the meeting of Clashmore versus St. Mary's, and that will throw in from 7 o'clock at Fraher Field. So they are the fixtures for this weekend. Looking across to the Junior Championship, we have some fixtures that will be taking place. On this Sunday, we have the Junior C knockout playoffs. So Ballyduff Lower face Passage in Ballyduff Lower at 11 o'clock. Rowmore face Clonea from 12, and that's in the Claybine in Rowmore. And Tramore take on Portlaw, and that's in Tramore. And then looking to the Junior A Championship knockout in the West, Geraldines will face Kilrossenty from 3 o'clock, and that's in Dungarvan's GA ground. While on the Sunday, Turin will face Colligan at 2 o'clock in Cappoquin. Our very own Gavin Whelan, of course, WLR broadcaster, will be playing for Colligan. It'll be interesting to see how they get on. And of course, in the Junior C Knockout Championship in the West, on Sunday, we have Ardmore versus Mondelago from 12 o'clock in Bushy Park and Bricky Rangers. And Old Parish face Colligan in the Junior C in Abbeyside, and that's a 6 o'clock throw-in. And they are all our adult fixtures from junior, intermediate and senior coming up this weekend. A busy round of fixtures, as I said, available on Clubber TV. A lot of games available this weekend. Just going to run through the quick schedule of what Clubber TV has on offer. And of course, you can find Clubber TV on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or go to clubbertv.ie. I know they also have a great competition running at the moment. Get all 5 intermediate and 4 senior Waterford Hurling Championship fixtures on Saturday and Sunday free of charge. To enter, all you have to do is like and retweet. Go to Clubber TV's Twitter page and like and retweet this post and the competition closes Saturday 9 a.m. in the morning, where the lucky winner will be revealed. So the fixtures they will be hosting will be Tramore versus De La Salle, Ballydufflower versus Butlerstown, Ballymena versus Cappoquin, Ballysaggart Bricky Rangers in the intermediate, Ballygunner Portlaw on Ryan Shamrocks, Ferrybank versus Aaron's Own. Of course, Saturday evening in the senior grade, Passage versus 4 Mile, Clonea versus Lismore at 7:15, and Sunday Abbeyside versus Dunhill, De La Salle versus Tallow, and Clashmore versus St Mary's. So a brilliant package there available from Clubber TV. Of course, that competition can be found on Twitter. As I said, I did chat to Tomás McCarthy during the week, and we had a sit down and we had a very, very good, enjoyable interview, and I'm going to go straight to that. And of course, you can catch me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or you can find me at ilovesmyclubby@gmail.com or ilovesmyclubby on YouTube, and you'll find all of our content there. It has been a pleasure the last couple of weeks covering the championship. We're now down to the business end. I suppose the shadow boxing has now finished, and we look forward to what will hopefully be an thrilling weekend of hurling in the Daisha County. And isn't it great to have Davy Fitz back again? I chatted to him briefly last Sunday in Fairfield, and he was excited and he had that grin on his face. So Davy's ready to get his roll up his sleeves and get into the dirty work, and we wish him all the best here from I Loves My Club. We're going to bring you the interview of Tomás McCarthy now, and we will chat to you next week, same time, same place. Mind yourself, folks. You're very welcome along to this week's I Love My Club Bye. And of course, we had the last round 3 of the senior championship last weekend. A lot of games took place in both of our headquarters in Fairfield and also in Welch Park. And of course, the new news that Davy Fitz is back on the scene. And of course, he was in attendance of both games. I am delighted to say I have Tomás McCarthy, the author of Game of My Life, broadcaster with WR and reporter with News and Star. Tomás, how are you?
Good, Seamus.
And we were just chatting off air about how busy everything is at the moment, but I suppose we were saying it'll all be over in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're really getting to the crunch now. I mean, the championship start in earnest this weekend across, senior, intermediate, junior. It's make or break, knockout stuff. I think, all teams are going to be all in this weekend.
And that's an interesting, on previous years, I suppose, with the way the group was situated, the crowd seemed to be down a little bit for the games, especially the last round of games there, just gone. I wonder, is it a case of, like you said, they're waiting for knockout stages?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. And I think also just the extraordinary weather we've had over the past couple of weeks, I think that definitely plays into it. I think people are otherwise engaged, and I think probably around this time of year as well, Seamus, people are on holidays too. So I think all of those factors probably play into the crowds that we saw last weekend. Of
course, and looking to last weekend, I know Davy Fitz was in attendance in both Welch Park and in Fairfield last weekend, and it's great news that Davy's back. What's your own opinion on Davy coming back to the Daisha?
Yeah, I think it's a strong appointment, Seamus. I think that he feels that there's the potential to go all the way with Waterford second time around. I think the county board feel that way. I think the players feel that way. I believe that the selection committee, got the feedback from the players, and it was really positive. I think Davy has brought success to whatever county he's been in. He's won a Munster title with Waterford. He's won a National League and an All-Ireland with Clare. He's brought a Leinster Championship to Wexford. I think he's going to give it absolutely everything over the next 2 years or so to bring success to Waterford. And I think, look, despite the way this summer turned out, I think the raw material is there in Waterford to win an All-Ireland. I think probably everybody feels that maybe there's a 2 to 3 year window to do it, that, players are coming to the peak of their powers. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out with Davy over the next couple of years.
And I wonder as well, obviously Liam Cahill done a fabulous job with Waterford, and of course taking this summer out of the picture, but are there any other players within the county? I'm not looking for specific names, but is there talent we haven't seen yet that could be brought into Davy's fold?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Seamus. We're kind of all over the past couple of weeks looking at the club games, wondering is there one or two players that could drop in. I think definitely, look, Patrick Fitzgerald, I think, is definitely someone that could make an impression over the next couple of years. There's absolutely no question about that. I know Ballygunner are bedding him in slowly but surely over the past couple of weeks in the senior championship. He's definitely a player that could have an impact, no question about that. Other than that, maybe someone like Sean Welsh coming up from the under-20s. He's plenty of size, plenty of scoring ability as well. It's maybe still a little bit raw. But,
would there be a case for Paddy Levy in midfield for Ballygunner?
I think so. I think he's an absolute workhorse. Nothing flashy, keeps the ball moving. Does the very unglamorous work around midfield. He's kind of maybe in kind of Will O'Donoghue mold, Seamus, in the way that he doesn't offer a real scoring threat, but he'll really roll up his sleeves around that midfield area. Yeah, he's definitely a player that I'd like to see given a run. And another player that may be worth looking at is John Curran from Dungarvan. I think Waterford a little bit short on defensive cover last year, and he's someone that could come into the equation as well.
Yeah, indeed. And like you said, it is interesting because I've been doing a lot of games with Clubber TV, and you're getting to see week in, week out, intermediate, senior, and even some junior games. And I think there is maybe a few it'll be interesting to see, does Davy just stick with the panel? But I've no doubt Davy will have some sort of an open trial, or he'll invite players in to see what talent is there. Moving back to last weekend, I was in attendance for all last weekend's games. Passage played De La Salle in what has to be said a very lacklustre affair at Welsh Park. De La Salle coming out winners 24 points to 12. Did you get to manage to see it or read any reports on that one, Tomas?
I did, yeah. I watched back the stream of the game, Seamus, and I'd probably share your feelings on it. De La Salle were pretty much in control from start to finish. I think it was important for them to get back on track after the nature of that Ballygunner defeat. They were absolutely eaten alive in the opening half of that game, like 14 unanswered points. But there was a better look to them last Saturday, I'd have to say. Obviously boosted, by the return of Ruben Halloran. But, I think Adam Farrell is settling into 3. Kevin Moran is there at 6. Like Eddie Barrett has Mr. Consistency at middle of the field. Jack Fagan is definitely, I think, more effective in an attacking role at club level. He offers a lot more. I was very impressed by their puck outs as well. Very, very lightning quick. Shane McNulty was a great option for them, and they were very, very dominant. I felt from beginning to end.
Yeah, I watched the game myself, as I said, and I was very impressed with their running off the shoulder. Jack Fagan presented himself many times. Eddie Barrett, like you said, I think he's a very underrated hurler within the club scene. He scored, I think it was 3 or 4 points again. Brian Cunningham chipping in with 4 points from play as well. And they had a lot of scores all over the field. Turning to Passage, I suppose Passage never really showed up. It was almost like Passage showed up to a challenge game and De La Salle showed up to a championship game.
There was definitely, I think De La Salle showed a lot more intensity on the night. There was definitely a bit of frustration in the Passage ranks over some of the frees. I thought some of them were a little bit soft, especially in the first half. But I think Passage will definitely need to get more out of their attack, Seamus, next time out. They only got 12 points the last day, 1-7 against Ballygunner. That's not going to win a championship game. And look, the potential is there when you have Mikey Cummins, Owen Connors, Mark Fitzgerald. Now, Owen Connors didn't let the side down. He was Pasture's best player with 5 points. I definitely see Cillian Fitzgerald starting the next day. They'll need to get more out of their attack if they're to do anything this weekend.
Of course. And turning our attention then to Frere Field last Saturday night, with the meeting of 4 Mile Water versus Clonea. Of course, Clonea going into this one without Conor Dalton and Kieran Power after a brilliant first round performance against Dungarvan. Unfortunate not to win it and to lose it at the same time. But 4 Mile Water winning on a scoreline of 324 to 19 points. Tom and Jamie Barron, outstanding performances. A real, not a shock, but Michael Ryan's men really came out and attacked this one, didn't they, Tomas?
They certainly did, Seamus, and certainly the margin of victory was quite surprising. Don't think anyone could have foreseen that. But they're a totally different animal from what we saw on the opening night against Dungarvan. Their work rate was absolutely tremendous. I think in early on, Jason Gleeson was lining up a shot, and two former Water players, ran their socks off to get in a hook or a block, and eventually they got a hook on it, and the ball just trickled wide, and that kind of just summed up, the energy levels in that 4 mile team. And it was great to see Jamie Barron back to his absolute best on midfield, pulling the strings. He must have the best sidestep in hurling, Seamus. I imagine it always gets him out of trouble.
I always say he has rubber ankles, because I just don't know how he does it.
Yeah, he has dancing feet. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant to see. And he really led the way in the first half. And then right after half time, we got 5 points in 5 minutes, and it was game over after that. And their half back line absolutely took over the game. Colm Gowrie, Tom Byrne, Oisin Welsh, they absolutely dominated the Clonea puckouts. And that was really 4 miles platform from there. And Clonea's forwards that were really threatening in the first half, like Kieran Corwin, Jason Gleeson, Billy Power, they didn't get looking in the second half. I think they had 8 wides in the first half as well. That was a bit costly, but in the second half, it was all 4 mile. And, Tom Byrne was immense at centre back. And up front, Kieran Welsh got 6 from play. Sean Welsh got 1, 2 from play. Aaron Ryan got 9 in total, 3 from play. They are certainly coming into this weekend with loads of momentum, Seamus.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the spread of scores as well, and as you said, the work rate. Then, of course, across the Sunday, we had the double header in Fairfield, the first game, which seen Dunhill face Lismore, and of course, Lismore came out on top with a 220 to 18 points win. This one, I watched, like I said, I was there, and Dunhill's wasted a ball killed them in the end.
Oh, it did. I mean, they had 16 wides, 8 in both halves. I think they missed 3 frees as well. I thought they were really on top during that third quarter, and probably should have overtaken Lismore at that stage. Like Micheál Harney absolutely thundered into it. He's been outstanding in their 2 games so far, but they just couldn't get enough return on the scoreboard for all the possession that they had. And then just a killer moment came when Jack Prendergast raced through on goal on 45 minutes and banged it into the net. And that was that from there. But a really battling performance from Dunhill. But, Lismore had to start the show in Jack Prendergast 113, 124 and all. I thought he ran the game from start to finish, not just his score taken, but just the way he ran at the Dunhill defence, constantly attracting frees. And, he really led the way for Lismore on Sunday.
Yeah, his turn of foot was very impressive last Sunday in Fairfield. And, of course, we cannot talk about this game without mentioning Big Dan.
Look, it's incredible, like, at 45 years of age. And, look, the shape he's in at the moment is incredible, Seamus. I know when he was involved with Waterford, he was doing a lot of the similar weights and strength and conditioning programs that the players were doing, and you can just see it on the field. He's still fresh as a daisy. I thought he started the game really strongly. He was a real target man inside on the edge of the square, and not only scoring, he scored a point, could have got a goal, but he was laying the ball off as well. He was very much involved. In fairness to Walter Halley, he stuck to his task, and he kind of broke even after that blazing start from Dan. But he's still a factor for Lismore. I'm not sure if he'll start at the weekend, but he'll certainly feature, and he still causes all sorts of consternation on the edge of that square.
That's the thing that's really impressive. We see it with all kind of guys that are coming to the end of their career in sports, and sometimes they're playing, but they're not necessarily involved. They're just there for the sake of it. But I was there at the game. Like you said, the first couple of minutes, there was another ball, a breaking ball he pulled on, and it barely went wide. He was actually involved in the game, and he was one of the reasons why Lismore made such an impressive start.
Big time. Yeah, there's no question about it. He creates room for other forwards. He creates scores for other forwards. And even in the Rowan Moore game when he came on at half time, he was a crucial factor in Lismore nearly turning that game on his head. So any team preparing for Lismore will have to prepare for Dan.
Indeed, and who thought we'd be saying that at 45 years of age? And of course, then the second game, which took place, it was Abbeyside versus Tallow, and the Villagers coming out on a victory line of 220 to 314. I was at the game again myself. Abbeyside done enough, I think, without doing too much. Mark Ferncombe had a good game. I thought the likes of Montgomery was very quiet. Also, Prunty was very quiet. He wasn't really involved in the game, but still a really, really good result for Abbeyside.
Yeah, look, the main thing for Abbeyside was to get a win on the board after the nature of that defeat to Mount Sion first time out. And there was a lot of changes on that Abbeyside team that went out in the first game, Seamus. I think that they're missing half of their team that lined out in the quarterfinal the previous year against Dungarvan. But the main thing was to get Conor Prunty and Neil Montgomery back on the field, get 60 minutes into their legs. Michael Kiley was really impressed with him, both at centre forward and full forward. Mark Ferncombe, got 112, set up 1-1 as well, was really involved. They're still missing the likes of Charlie Train and Shawnee Callahan. It'll be interesting to see if they come back into the mix now for this weekend. But yeah, I think there's probably a little bit more on Abbeyside. They'll probably be disappointed with conceding 3 goals as well. So a little bit of work to do for them. But the main thing is that they're back on track. And they also showed a little bit of grit as well, because they were down to 14 men for the last 20 minutes of that contest as well.
They were indeed. And of course, Tallow still looking to the likes of Tommy Ryan to provide that kind of figurehead going forward. I suppose Tallow, it wasn't that they didn't perform to their best, but they had a chance near the end to steal a victory, but the game looked out of sight from about 40 minutes onwards for Tallow.
It did. Yeah, it did. They were always chasing it, really, and they missed some crucial chances as well. I think they had 9 second half wides, then a couple of frees as well, which went wide from Tommy Ryan and Ryan Gray, even though Tommy Ryan got 11 frees on the day, but they will rue some of those chances. And Tommy Ryan nearly got in for his hat-trick goal towards the end. He's just a constant, absolute constant threat. I saw Jordan Henley came on at half-time, wasn't really a factor in the game. I wonder if we'll see him from the start, because he's a big player for Tallow. But look, I think Abbeyside just about deserved it in the end.
Indeed. And then, of course, the draw was made after, and I actually got a few words with Davy Fitz. I was chatting to him about one or two the projects that we were involved with over the summer. And we had a little joke. I said to him, "What are you doing back here? I told you not to come back down this way." So, but he was in attendance. He said he was happy enough with what he's seen in terms of maybe picking out 1 or 2 players for the weekend. But I suppose, as you said, it's turned to this weekend when the players will really start to step up. And the first game that we have is Passage versus 4 Mile Water at 5:30 in Fraher Field this Saturday. Of course, that'll be brought to you by Rua TV, I should say. What's your thoughts on this one, Tomas?
Yeah, I think 4 Mile are definitely the form team going into this one. I think they'll have a lot of momentum after Saturday night. As I said previously, I think they were a different animal from what we saw against Dungarvan. I thought their hurling as well was really, really sharp. Their first touch let them down against Dungarvan, but it was a much better on this occasion. And their short game was working well too. They were finding the man in the best position. Their main players are coming back into form at the Barons. So I'd fancy 4 Mile in this one, but I was just looking back on previous meetings between these teams, and Passage have a great record against 4 Mile, Seamus. I think they've won the last 4, and all of those in Fairfield include 2 quarterfinals. But as I said previously, they must get more out of their attack. I think Killian Fitzgerald will start. They need to get more out of Mark Fitzgerald on this occasion as well. I think there's a couple of matchups that we might see materialise. Callum O'Neill is a pretty tight man marker. I wonder will he go on Jamie Barron? I wonder will Tom Barron go on Mark Fitzgerald? Will Darragh Lynch pick up Sean Welsh, maybe size on size? Those are the sort of matchups that I'll be looking forward to. I think Passage will have to bring their best performance of the season But based on what we've seen so far, I'd have to go for 4 Mile.
I'd agree with you 100%. Passage have a lot more to bring than the last day. I was going to mention that record against 4 Mile because I was involved in a couple of those games, and Passage haven't actually lost to 4 Mile in a number of years. 4 championship meetings, of course, in Fairfield, but it's been a number of years, so it's a strange enough record. But I think based on last weekend, if 4 Mile bring what they done, and Passage would need to bring it another 100% to last week in order to try come through this one. So I think that'd be a very good game. I think to what's going to be the game of the weekend, the second game that throws in on Saturday evening, which is at 7:15 in Fairfield, Clonea versus Lismore. I think this one has a real making for a classic.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think this is the tie it around. Like, to me, all Lismore games are just much watch events, Seamus. Like, they're real great entertainers of the Senior Hurling Championship in Waterford. There's always entertainment. There's always high scores. And I think if you look at the respective forward divisions from both teams, I think we could be in for a real cracker here. You look at the likes of Jason Gleeson, Billy Power, James Power, Kieran Corwin for Clonea. Then you look at Lismore, like Jack Prendergast absolutely flying. I think Maurice Shanahan might start. He's had a hand injury all along, sat out the first 2 games. I think Morris could be back. I think Ray Barry must be in the equation to start. Oisin O'Gorman showed good form first day out. Of course, Big Dan, Will Ireland, Corrick-Dale be back in the mix. It has the potential to be an absolutely rip-roaring affair, I think, on Saturday night.
I think, looking towards that, Dara Duggan's Chargers, they can be happy with their first performance. I don't think they'll be too disappointed with the 4 Mile game in terms of the personnel they were missing. Will it be a case of Kieran Powers back? Will Connor Dalton? I'm hearing they won't be there this weekend. We'll have to wait and see. But if both teams, like you said, if Dan is back, if Morris is back, and even if one of the Dailies is back, that could be a real game. And like you said, Lismore are the exciting team in the senior. They remind me of Waterford 07-08 kind of team. There's always a bit of a buzz, and you'll see a brilliant score, and you'll get a fist pump off Dan or Morris, and they just bring another life to a game, which is really enjoyable. And of course,
just to come back on Clonea as well, Seamus. I was at the game on Saturday night, and the 5 Clonea mentors stayed out on the field for about 10 minutes or so after the game and didn't go back into the dressing room to their players for a good while. So I can only imagine what was said to the players when they went back in. But there were serious discussions had after that loss to 4 Mile. So I'm sure we'll see Clonea come out all guns blazing on Saturday.
And like we said, we'll be looking forward to that double header in Fairfield from Saturday with Passage versus 4 Mile Water in the first game and Clonea, Lismore in the second. Turning our attention to Sunday, we have the first game, the meeting of Abbeyside versus Dunhill. Is this one a foregone conclusion, or can Dunhill maybe spring a surprise here?
I don't see Dunhill causing a surprise here, Seamus, but I do think they'll make a game of it. I think Shane Casey will be back. We saw him come on in the second half the last time out against Lismore. I think he could be on the freeze as well. He's a big player for them. And, I think I was very impressed by Killian Bonner as well last time out. 4 points to play brings real physicality to that half forward line. And if they can just be a bit more efficient in front of goal, they can make a real game of this. And like if Micheál Harney continues the vein of form that he's in as well, I think they can really bring it to Abbeyside. But you'd have to say from just Abbeyside's experience and from what we've seen so far, that you'd fancy them to come out on top. And, the Dunhill defence might find it very, very difficult to deal with the likes of Mark Ferncombe and Michael Kiley.
Indeed, I completely share your opinion there. The second game then sees De La Salle versus Tallow. Based on last weekend, you would have to say that De La Salle's will be the one to pick up a victory here.
I think so, Seamus. Yeah, I think so. And it's a big game for De La Salle, I think, because they were involved in a relegation scrap last year had to beat Ballysagger just to stay up in senior, and they're involved in a relegation battle before back in 2015. So they'll want to put performances back to back. I do think they looked an awful lot better last weekend, especially with Ruben Halloran back, Jack Fagan in that attacking role as well. Really impressed by Shane McNulty as well. They do have inter-county quality almost in every line of the field, and it does look like they're kind of settling on their best 15. It'll be interesting to see who will pick up Tommy Ryan. I think maybe someone like Tom Moran could be the man for the job, because he's a real goal getter. He is Tallow's go-to man. So if De La Salle can get a handle on him, I fancy them to prevail.
Indeed, and like we said, all our games, of course, there'll be the updates live from WLR throughout the weekend. Of course, Nigel will have the sports show on Saturday, and there's a lot of actions being shown lately on Clubber TV and Rua TV. It's great for people abroad and people that might not be able to get to the games. But as well, also, there's Camogie Championship on this weekend. I know Galtier have a big game coming up against De La Salle soon. Of course, Beck Carton was on fire for De La Salle last week. A lot of action around the county, Tomas. I suppose we will try and encourage as many people to get out as possible, but if they can't, to keep up to date with Twitter, with Clubber TV, Rua TV, and WLR, and a lot of action to be watched this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like you mentioned, people not getting to the games. I was out sick a couple of weeks ago, Seamus, and I was very, very grateful to have Clubber TV on that weekend to see all the matches, and it kept me right up to speed. So it is great for people that are away or can't make the games, to see them all on Clubber.
Yeah, it's a vital service, and we hope it long continues within Waterford. But Tomas, it's been an absolute pleasure. As I said, broadcaster with WLR, of course, columnist with News and Star, and of course, Game of My Life, which I read last winter and I really, really enjoyed. And I remember saying it to you when we were down in Cork doing the Galtier and Munster final. It was a book I really enjoyed, and if anyone has any interest in hurling whatsoever, even if they're not from Waterford, it's a book I go out and buy, Game of My Life, and if you're from Waterford, you have to give it a read. Tomas, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you, and I've no doubt I'll see you over the weekend.
Yep, you're welcome, Seamus. Thanks a million.
Mind yourself. Take care.
Yep.
Wherever you're listening, whether it be Ballyduff or Ballygunner, Passage or Portlaw, Dungarvan or Dunhill, tune in to I Love My Club By, the podcast that brings you closer to camogie and hurling in the Waterford club scene. Don't forget, hurling is our passion.